Hey, fellow Restobians, welcome back to Restobia. Right, a quick video follow on from Lug Width Vigilante Part 1. I don't think this is going to be called Lug Width Vigilante Part 2. But yeah, I got a couple of comments to that video. This is going to be a ramble. I've made no notes. Got quite a few watches here. Now I really need to make sure I don't bash them all together. Excuse the mess. I made no effort to clear up. I just wanted to get a quick video out today because I've got a busy weekend, starting off with I think the sun's gone back in, but starting off with a pub visit in a minute with the dog. Yeah, but the reason for it was I had a couple of comments on on Lug Width Vigilante Part 1. Sorry, I try not to try and keep things moving around. And two guys said, B. Callum, thanks for the video. Lug width is not something I care about, just not a consideration. I'm a bracelet guy. Most watches I buy are on a bracelet. I mean, I'm a bracelet guy too. Most watches I buy and wear are also on a bracelet. I think it's more important to bracelet guys than not, really. I suppose NATOs are going to be straight, aren't they? I don't like NATOs. I don't like straight things. Yeah, and one of my very, very best subscriber, Gavin B, he said the same thing. Basically, it's not something I care about, but he does say I much prefer a good taper than what the lug width is. Now, I replied to Gavin directly, as he will know, but yeah, I mean, as I kind of said in the video, the lug width affects other things, which I want to talk about a little bit here, in no particular order. So basically what I said in that video is let's get a watch with, well, this one was mentioned, the Explorer. If you start off, yeah, I've made no effort. Some of these watches are going to be a bit grubby. If you start off, the reason that lug width is important to me, one of the reasons is it's the design. It's how it goes from case diameter to bracelet, and that will involve the lug length and thickness of the lugs. And there is, although I don't think there's a perfect watch, I do 100% believe there is a perfect transition from case width to end link via the lugs to bracelet, taper and clasp. Now I 100% believe that, and I think it's a shame that people don't really care about these things, and hopefully I can within this video explain why it's important to me, and maybe it may make you think of some things. Hopefully it doesn't point out any problems with your watches. Now, although I said I think a perfect case to clasp dimension is possible, I don't think many watches hit that. I think all of the ones I have here have various problems, and I'm just going to rattle through them. I've already mentioned the Explorer 40 in being, it's not actually 40mm, it's 38.5 if you measure it. But it's got a 21mm lug width, and I think it needed to be 40. And I did also mention my perfect fit for me with a 7.5-inch wrist, but not so much the measurements, but more the dimensions, is the Tissot Gentleman. So this is 40mm, 21mm lug width. I think the lugs are a very good length. I think they're a good thickness at the end. I think that transitions into a bracelet that probably doesn't have, I mean, it's got a butterfly clasp. There are all sorts of things that are wrong with it. It doesn't actually taper a massive amount. But when you've got it on your wrist, that look there just suits my 7.5-inch wrist the best. So that side of things probably works the best that I found, but it does, as I say, have issues. Now, the other thing about taper, people mention taper a lot, is that, I don't know if people know, but when you've got a watch on, let's just put this on. I can't stand saying throw this on. Oh, bad YouTubers. When I put this on and you look at it, now I believe, it probably looks different on camera, but I believe you're only meant to see I think you're meant to see 2 links each side, or 1.5 maybe. When you look at the watch on your wrist, I can see 2 on this, and I think that shows you that the watch is the right size for your wrist. People might agree, disagree, whatever, but what is a fact is, obviously you have removable links, and then you have non-removable links. It's only the non-removable links that can taper. Obviously the removable links have to be the same, otherwise you can't interchange them. Now, that varies between watches. So, you know, this, for example, has 5 non-removable links on each side. So they can all taper, but there isn't really much of a taper there. I haven't got a Grand Seiko. They're one of these watches that people say don't have a taper, but they do. But it's just not much. But you only actually visually, when you've got the watch on, you only need the taper to take place between the first 2 links, really, because they're the only 2 that you should. If you can see 3 links on your wrist, the watch is too small for you, in my opinion. So, but yeah, but still, whatever you start with, the taper, whether it be on 5 links on this, and I think that that's not much of a taper, considering it could go over 5 links. I don't know, is it too big there? Is it too wide there? Could that be narrow? I quite like, you know, chunky clasps. So, oh God, where am I getting to? So the other thing, so this is a San Martin. It's roughly, I think it's the same dimensions as the real Batman, which is 40mm, 20mm lug width. Now, I think this is too, I think these shoulders are too big. I think they just stick out too much. And I think that this has, I mean, it's a Jubilee style bracelet, and I think it has about 7 non-removable links. So that's where your taper is. You can kind of see that there. Now, that's a nice taper. That's quite a nice taper. But whatever whatever that goes down to, that's what your clasp, you know, your width at the clasp is going to be. I mean, obviously on a concealed clasp, it doesn't stick out like a 3-fold will, so it doesn't go down and then go back up again. But you know, I just feel if you've got a better start up here, it will look, so comparing these 2, I just think the transition, I think these lugs, the width of the actual lug and the length of the lug, which are probably roughly the same, I just think looks better on this. I think these shoulders stick out too much and it doesn't look right, and I think that is that is one of the main problems with you know, having a so here we have the Erebus Origin, which is a 20mm lug width. As every micro brand is an even size lug width. So, and I think this would look so much better with a 21mm lug width, as we have here on the Pelagos 39, which was the first. This is obviously a smaller. This is 41mm. This is, as the name suggests, 39, but I think it does sort of come up near 40. But you can see it's significantly smaller. This was the first Tudor that had 21mm lug widths. Still stick at this one, and I think it's a really, really, really good proportions. So I mentioned proportions and dimensions. So dimensions is the actual physical measurement if you measure it. The proportions is those measurements in relation to each other. Dimensions will vary for wrist size, but proportions don't really. I think these 2 are fairly, or this has you can tell that has a much better taper. I do think this is a stunning watch. It comes close to being, it's a bit too small for me, but it comes close to having the perfect case. You know, I think the lugs go in nicely to the first link there. Lovely proportion, and as soon as I saw this, I knew it was 21mm lug width because it just worked. Knowing that was a 39mm case. Obviously, those lugs are quite wide for the case, and I just think that's a good look. I think that's a good look in terms of how it merges. I think that is a bad look because these shoulders are too big. I think that's a bad look because the shoulders, you know, the bracelet just isn't wide enough. Interestingly, Jodie's just brought out a 38mm Origin, which still has a 20mm lug width. The pictures of it, though, still show it to be these shoulders to be quite big, which is a little bit confusing, because if you've got a smaller watch with the same lug width, so i.e. the lug width is bigger in proportion to the case diameter, there isn't really a reason for those shoulders to stick out so much, but that's how they've designed it. But interestingly, he's made a big point of saying that it still has a 20mm lug width on a smaller case, but it has a much better taper. Now, I think I said I was happy with this taper. it's almost non-existent. What do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 links that aren't removable. So I'm imagining there's a millimetre. I'm imagining that goes down to 90 now. I don't know. I'm not going to measure any of these. I'm just doing it visually. So this is a minimal taper. This is, but it has a taper. If we get a watch in that has zero taper, this Mondaine, I need to say Mont Blanc, it's Mondaine. I mean, I can just tell from that this has a bit of a taper. This doesn't have any taper. It's chalk and cheese to me. I don't like non-taper. I bought this because, bashed. I bought this because of the movement, for the stop-to-go movement in a watch. This actually came with a Jubilee style bracelet, but I purchased the oyster style bracelet, nothing like an oyster, but I purchased a 3-link bracelet to go with it, which looks better, but it's still not great. But this kind of shows you with that whole lug thing. I'm guessing that's 20mm as well, but look at that. I mean, they really could be bigger. You know, there's no reason for it to look like this. You know, it could have bigger lugs, not these silly long thin things, and then it could be wider lug width and have a bit of taper. You know, it's a massive clasp. So, you know, it could all be fixed a lot more around here. But, you know, that's how Mondaine do it. I think people like this look of watch. I don't like parallel bracelets. But my point was, you can really see this is parallel and this is tapered, even just from that angle. I can anyway. Maybe some people can't, but I can. What do we have? So, yeah, so it changes. I mean, this Seiko Paddy, Seiko Monster, it looks like you can take all of the links out, but when you look on the back, interestingly on this one, there's only 2 non-removable, so you can remove all of the other ones. They're all parallel. It's only these 2 that are tapered. I mean, this is an integrated style bracelet. But it's interesting. I mean, I think it's a bit of an optical illusion, because it looks like this one's tapering as well, but it obviously isn't, because it has to interchange with those. Yeah, so, but like I say, you only need the first 2 to taper anyway, because they're the only 2 that you should be seeing when you're wearing the watch. Obviously, you know, if you've got a watch on, you know, I'm talking about looking straight down on it, but obviously if you do that, you know, there is more. So the taper, what have I picked out here is the best taper. The best looking for me front on in terms of proportions, not dimensions, don't get those 2 things confused, is this one for me personally. But that's got a rubbish taper. This, I think, it almost tapers too much, this one. It almost tapers too much. Now, I haven't got any pictures. I was going to get some pictures up. The worst taper that I can think of is an Oris Aquis, I think it is. And it looks even sharper than this. It looks, you know, it's just too sharp. Now, I think that's a little bit too sharp. I think that's too much taper. What have we got here? We've got the first 3 links taper, and the rest are all parallel. I think that taper could be less. As I say, I'm not going to measure it. I'm not going to start measuring stuff. It's just a sort of brief chat about as if I can do brief about. But yeah, I think this works. I think this works really well. I think it's a very well proportioned watch, and I thought that when I first saw the pictures. I think the taper. I mean, I say it tapers too much, but the reason I say that is I'm sort of not really contradicting myself here, but it's tapering down to. I mean, it's tapering down to there, isn't it? So I think these outside links of the 3-link bracelet are too narrow. Now that's bringing me on to another point. I've got to bring in, and these are all just nuances. Some of them are related to, but obviously if you start with a bigger lug width, you've got more options going down to the clasp. It doesn't show too much in this one, so I've got a normal Pelagos, the Tudor Pelagos 42mm, 22mm lug width at the top because it's a bigger watch. And just to show, so what normally happens with Rolex and Tudor is, and just to show you, so Rolex tend to be what would you call that? Portrait center links. Whereas Tudor tend to be landscape center links on a 3-link bracelet. And that's quite interesting because obviously the same company, they, in my experience, Rolex are always, they're longer than they are wider, and on Tudor they're always wider than they are longer. Now the problem with that is, if you consider it a problem, is that when you get down to the first link that's the narrowest, so on this one, what did I say? So it's the 4th link down. You've got very narrow outside links, whereas if you have on this one, which is that one, they're not quite as narrow. They're not quite as narrow. The proportions. So if you look at, you look at what we're looking at here. We're looking at that one and that one, that one. So, the proportions, percentages rather, that the outside links are much narrower than the inside one. Whereas on the Rolex, they're narrower, but they're only roughly about half the size. So, that to me looks proportionately better because these 2 links add up to what the middle one is. Whereas on the Tudor, and other watches like the Aquis, these are much narrower and they're a little bit, to me, they're a little bit, I love the Pelagos, don't get me wrong, and they're all different, watches are all different, but I'm hoping what I've sort of trying to explain here, that if you start off with, depending on design, but if you start off with a bigger lug width, it just gives you more option going down to the clasp. So it is something that we should, not just lug width, but lug design as well. I think the lugs on this are awful. Some people might like it. I suppose it's quite a classic dressy look. It's certainly a certain type of look. What else have I popped out here? I mentioned that one, didn't I? Yeah, Omegas do it as well. I think. This Omega Speedmaster Professional there is a taper. What have we got here? We've got the first 4 links on one side. One of these has a different amount of link. Normally it's the same non-removable links on both sides, but I do have a watch here that is different. I can't think which one it was. Yeah, there was one, I'm sure. Was it a Rolex actually? It's got 3. Yeah, so this has 3 fixed links on the 6 o'clock side and 4 fixed links on the 12 o'clock side, which is a little bit unusual. Not quite sure why they've done that. Normally they are an even number both sides. In my experience, I think every other watch we got here. So 3 and 3, yeah. Excuse me. But, yeah, I think that's all I wanted to cover. I think this needs to, this is an unusual design. I love this watch, for its sort of Star Wars X-Wings, what's it called? Speedmaster Skywalker X33. But it reminds me of, an X-Wing fighter. Sets off my Star Wars vibes. It's titanium. It's very light. Very nice watch. Really do love it. It's an Annie Digi. So I haven't had this out for a while. So there's no digital display there. You cannot see that there's a digital display there until you push a button and then boom. I hope you've got no reflection on that. Boom, the digital display. You can't turn it off, which is annoying. It just goes off after a set period of time. But yeah, lovely watch. Lovely and light. Nice titanium light watch. But yeah, hopefully that's kind of, where are we now? 20 minutes already? Oh my gosh, I've got to get down to the pub. They've been open an hour. The dog will be gasping. But yeah, just a little, I'm not sure what I'm going to call this video yet, but I'm going to pop it on now. Hope you're having a good weekend. I hope that's kind of, explained some of my thoughts. Let me know, am I mad? Let me know in the comments below. Am I mental? you know, or as it sort of, as is there anything that I've said today that you didn't know? Has it sort of made you think about things a bit more, or do you still not give a monkeys about lug width? But yeah, so yeah, like I say, Saturday morning, another couple of minutes to go of the morning of the AM. Have a good weekend. But for now, one watchless wrist, live it.